I wasn't supposed to see her that day. It was one of those crisp, quiet mornings when the sky is a little too blue and the air carries a calm that feels undeserved. I remember the way my car window fogged as I sat outside of Ellery's Café, wondering if I even needed that second cup of coffee. But something told me to get out and stretch my legs. I hadn't been sleeping much lately. I walked in. The bell above the door jingled, and for a moment, I was just another customer. Nothing unusual. Nothing suspicious. I didn't even scan the room. Until I heard that laugh. I hadn't heard her laugh like that in over a year, not at home, not with me. Not even during vacations or family dinners. That sound, light and reckless, pulled my head around like a rope had yanked it. And there she was. My wife. Brielle. She was leaning slightly forward at a corner table, eyes locked on someone who wasn't me. A man I didn't recognize. Tin jacket. Crooked smile. He said something, and she laughed again, louder this time, the kind of laugh that made people turn their heads. She didn't notice me. Not yet. I stood still for too long. People were walking past me. The barista asked if I needed help, but I couldn't answer. My fingers closed around the folded paper in my coat pocket. I had written it the night before. I didn't know why at the time. I just had a feeling. A hunch. It said 3 words. Don't come home. When she finally saw me, her expression didn't crack like I expected. No guilt. No panic. Just a flicker of surprise, like running into an old coworker you thought moved away. She excused herself from the table and walked toward me. Calm. Too calm. Lowell, she said like my name didn't mean anything anymore. I handed her the note. No words. I turned and walked out before she could say another syllable. But I hadn't even reached my car when the unimaginable happened. What she did next wasn't loud. It wasn't a scream or a scene or a chase. It was subtle, calculated, and it made my blood run cold. And that, I'll get to in part 2. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was something darker. This was the day my world stopped pretending it was whole. She didn't follow me out. That's what still gets me. You'd think she would have tried, called out, ran after me, asked what the note meant, or at least pretended to care. But no. Brielle stood inside that cafe like I was the one interrupting something sacred. I sat in my car for what felt like forever, engine off, hands clenched on the steering wheel. I didn't cry. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because everything inside me was locked up, tightly coiled like a spring under pressure. My heartbeat wasn't loud. It was steady. Too steady. Like I had been preparing for this moment without even realizing it. Then I saw him through the windshield, the man in the tan jacket. He stood up from the table, stretched like he had all the time in the world, and walked to the window. He looked out, straight at me, and smiled. That smile wasn't smug. It wasn't nervous. It was worse. It was indifferent. Like I was no threat at all. Like he'd already taken what he wanted and left nothing behind. I started the car. I didn't go home. I didn't even drive anywhere familiar. I ended up parking at some overlook out near Crescent Ridge, the kind of place teenagers used to sneak off to at night, and where the city lights blinked faintly beneath the haze. That's where I opened the box I hadn't touched in months, the one I kept in the glove compartment. Inside were receipts. A parking stub from a boutique hotel I'd never stayed at. A prescription bottle with a different man's name. And the one that stung the most, a restaurant bill for 2, signed by her, 3 weeks ago. It wasn't the total or the date that stood out. It was the printed message at the bottom. Happy anniversary. That was supposed to be our anniversary. She'd told me she was working late that night. I'd even texted her, save me a kiss. She never responded. I hadn't confronted her then. I hadn't said a word. I had just waited, watched, wondered. Until today. My phone vibrated beside me. I didn't want to look, but I did. Unknown number. I answered. Nothing. Just silence. And then one short sentence. She didn't come alone today. Click. I stared at the screen like it had burned a hole through my hand. Who was that? How did they know? What did they mean she didn't come alone? That's when I realized the tan jacket wasn't the only man watching me. There was someone else. And I was about to find out that this story, my story, was never about a simple betrayal. It was about a setup. And I had just stepped right into it. Have you ever noticed how betrayal has a smell? I hadn't, until that night. It wasn't perfume. Not entirely. It was the combination of her, the one I used to know, and something else. Something foreign. Vanilla and static. That's the only way I can describe it. Like warm skin and the leftover charge after you pull off a sweater in the dark. I didn't go home that night. I drove past it, slowly, lights off, like I didn't belong there anymore. Her car was gone. That hurt more than I expected. Not because she left, but because she knew I'd be gone before she returned. Planned. Clean. No trace of panic. The windows of our house were dark, but I still imagined her inside, walking barefoot across the tile, humming that half-song she always did after drinking white wine. I imagined the man with her. Did he know where I kept the mugs? Would he drink from the one my sister gave me? Would he sit in my chair, legs crossed, wearing that smile? I didn't go in. I ended up in a motel off Route 11. A single bulb flickered over the sign. The man behind the desk didn't ask questions. He handed me a keycard, barely looked up. I respected that. Inside, the room smelled like old pine cleaner and something sad. I lay on the bed fully dressed, staring at the ceiling like I was waiting for a verdict. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink much. My phone buzzed just after midnight. She left something in your jacket. No name. No punctuation. Same unknown number. I checked the code I'd worn to the café. Nothing in the pockets. But there was something stitched into the lining. It was subtle. The inner seam had been opened and re-sewn by hand. I found the thread, pulled it, and a folded piece of notepaper slid out. Thin. Yellowed slightly. No date. No greeting. Just 6 words. I had to see him again. And beneath that, written in darker ink, as if added later, please don't go near the attic. My stomach turned. She didn't know I'd find it. She hadn't expected me to look. That message wasn't meant for the man in the tan jacket. It was for someone else. I sat up slowly, heart pounding. What attic? Our house didn't have one, did it? 6:19 a.m. The motel mirror has a crack down the center. I trace it with my thumb. My reflection splits in two. One man stayed married. The other is learning to breathe again. 6:24 a.m. The note is still there. Still 6 words. Still no signature. Please don't go near the attic. We don't have an attic. But I remember something faint, almost dreamlike. A square panel above the laundry room. I always assumed it led to nothing. Dust. Pipes. Maybe squirrels. Now I'm not so sure. 7:11 a.m. Back at the house. Her car is in the driveway. It's angled crooked, like she rushed home. The passenger seat is empty. No signs of him. Not the tan jacket. Not the cologne. Just quiet. I step onto the porch. My keys still work. That surprises me. Inside, the air feels strange. Cold in the wrong corners. Warm in places that used to be still. I leave the lights off. It's easier this way. Let the house forget I came. 7:18 a.m. I find her sweater crumpled on the kitchen chair. The one with the gold buttons. Still warm. Still soft. Still carrying the scent of someone else's hands. 7:20 a.m. I walk past our bedroom. The door is closed. A strip of light under it. Shadows moving inside. I don't stop. I don't want to know. 7:22 a.m. The laundry room. I drag the stool over. Look up. There it is. That square panel in the ceiling. White painted wood, lined with faint red stitching, like someone tried to seal it shut with thread, not nails. I push gently. It opens. Darkness breathes down on me. Dry, hollow, heavy. I climb. 7:27 a.m. The attic isn't empty. There's no insulation. Just a narrow plank of wood leading across beams. A single box sits at the far end, lit by a hole in the roof no bigger than a coin. The box is sealed with duct tape. And on the top, written in sharp, frantic ink, "Do not open unless you love me." I kneel beside it. I don't touch it. Not yet. Because love isn't enough right now. And maybe it never was. Dear Brielle. Or maybe not. Maybe this letter isn't for you. Maybe it's for me, or for the version of me who still believed this house had meaning. That the walls we painted together somehow made us permanent. That love couldn't be erased with silence and Sunday lies. You said you were working late. I believed you. You said your mom was sick. I made tea and kissed your forehead. You said I had nothing to worry about. That's the one that stayed with me the most. Because you didn't say it with panic. You said it the way someone orders a sandwich. Flat. Practiced. And now I'm sitting in an attic I didn't know existed, beside a box that probably knows more about you than I ever did. I haven't opened it yet. I'm not sure why. Maybe I'm afraid of what I'll find, or worse, what I won't. Sometimes the absence of horror is its own kind of terror. What if there's just a shirt, a napkin, a trinket from a trip you told me was for work? What if it's empty? Would that mean I imagined it all? I want to believe this is just a bad decision, a moment of weakness, a mistake you regret. But that smile, That smile you gave him across the table at the café, it wasn't temporary. It lived in your bones. I don't think you were pretending with him. I think you were pretending with me. You used to hum when you cooked. Little off-key fragments of songs you didn't know the names of. You always stood barefoot on the cold tile like it didn't bother you. You used to call me Lo when no one was around. Said it felt like a secret nickname. I still hear it sometimes when I wake up too early. That version of you? I don't think she exists anymore. But what scares me more is maybe she never did. I pulled the tape from the box like peeling off a bandage I wasn't ready to remove. It didn't resist. It opened like it wanted to. Inside were photographs. Not digital. Not printed from a phone. Film. Real, old-school photos. Glossy and deliberate. You. Him. A lakeside cabin I've never seen before. Date stamped. The first one was 6 years ago. 6. We were still picking paint colors. You still kissed me before work. We hadn't even had our first real fight yet. You weren't drifting then. You were gone. Every single thing I remember as happy now feels borrowed. As if I was just a pause between your real life. A commercial break. The last photo? It was of me. Sitting on our porch, drinking coffee. Staring at nothing. He took it. The man in the tan jacket. He was in my space. My quiet moment. My blind spot. There was handwriting on the back. He'll never know. Unless you want him to. I don't know who wrote that. You? Him? Someone else? But it's clear now. I was never supposed to find this attic. Never supposed to climb up here. Never supposed to start asking the wrong questions. I'm going to the lake. The one in the photo. I need to see it. And if I see him again, I won't be quiet this time. Lowell. June 4 to 5:42 a.m. I left before sunrise. No destination plugged into the GPS. I know where I'm going. The lake from the photo. But I didn't want a voice telling me when to turn. I needed silence. The hum of tires and the occasional creak of my steering wheel is enough. The highway looks different when you're chasing something. 6:12 a.m. I passed a diner I used to love. Thought about stopping. Thought about walking in, ordering the same burnt coffee and dry toast, pretending everything was normal. But if I sit still too long, I start thinking about her hand resting on his chest. Not in public, but in places like that. Places we once shared. 7:03 a.m. Phone buzzed. Unknown number again. Just 3 words this time. Almost there, Lo. No name. No clue how they knew where I was. Or what I was doing. But the use of my nickname, Lo, sent a chill through me. Brielle used to say it with warmth. This time, it read like a warning. 7:56 a.m. Fog. Thick, low fog along the ridge. Trees bending in slow motion. Nature whispering. I pulled over. Took a photo of the fog. I don't know why. Maybe to remind myself that even beauty can feel like a lie. 8:47 a.m. The road splits. Left to nowhere. Right to the lake. I take the right. 9:15 a.m. I reach the dirt path. GPS cuts out. No signal. Just like in the photos. The tire tracks are recent. Someone's been here this week. Maybe yesterday. Maybe this morning. I park under a half-dead pine tree and kill the engine. Silence. A kind that hums in your bones. 9:24 a.m. The cabin appears just beyond the clearing. It's not hidden, but not inviting, either. Weather-worn porch. Wind chimes made of metal scraps. A red canoe tipped over beside the steps. I recognize it from the photos. It's real. I take a slow step forward. The wood beneath my shoes groans like it remembers every secret. 9:31 a.m. I push open the cabin door. It's unlocked. Inside, it smells like cedar and dust, like memories preserved in formaldehyde. The furniture is mismatched. A framed photo of a mountain range sits crooked on the wall. But my eyes don't stop there. Because on the table are items that do not belong to strangers. A mug I bought on our road trip to Colorado. The scarf she lost last November. A copy of her favorite book, but with notes in the margins and not in her handwriting. Someone has been building a second life here. Slowly, carefully, and they've been doing it with my memories. 9:40 a.m. There's a sound upstairs. Floorboard shift. Deliberate. Heavy. I don't call out. I don't want to announce my presence. This place already knows I'm here. I climb the stairs one at a time. No creaks. No moans. Just breath. My own breath. 9:42 a.m. At the top of the stairs, there's a door slightly open. And from inside, I hear something that destroys me. Laughter. Brielle's. And it's live. I push the door open. What I see isn't what I expected. It's not her and the man. It's a screen. A camera. A recording. A stream. And she's laughing at me. In front of him. With him. A screen full of smiles and whispers. It's a saved video. Maybe days old. Maybe hours. But it's personal. Intimate. Cruel. A handwritten label at the bottom of the monitor reads, Lowell File 17. There are more files. More recordings. Labeled with my name. And then I hear a voice behind me. Male. Calm. Sharp. You weren't supposed to come here yet. I turn slowly. It's not the man from the cafe. It's someone else. And he knows me. Scene. The second floor, cabin interior. Dim light from the window. Dust motes drift like snow. A single camera records in the corner. The monitor still plays the loop. Brielle's laugh. On repeat. Lowell stands frozen. A man enters through the stairwell. Calm. Deliberate. Late 40s. Wire-rimmed glasses. No tan jacket. No visible weapon. Lowell. Quietly. You're not him. Stranger. No. I'm worse. Lowell. You've been watching me. Stranger. Documenting. Watching is for amateurs. Lowell. What is this place? Stranger. That depends. To me, it's a project. To you, maybe a confession booth? He walks past Lowell and taps the monitor. The video pauses mid-laugh. Brielle's face flickers, frozen in joy. Stranger, CONT'd. She didn't know everything. Not at first. That was your only grace. Lowell. Why me? Stranger. Because you were forgettable. Beat. Silence hangs heavy. Lowell. You picked the wrong man. Stranger. Did I? He pulls out a folder from a drawer. Slides it across the dusty desk. Lowell doesn't move. Stranger, CONT'd. Open it. Lowell doesn't want to. But his hand moves anyway. Inside, photographs. Notes. Surveillance stills. Pages pulled from journals he never wrote. But somehow, they exist. They look like his handwriting. His thoughts. But twisted. Misrepresented. Lowell. These aren't real. Stranger. There now. That's how stories work. Whoever holds the evidence owns the truth. Lowell. Who the hell are you? The stranger smiles, steps into a rectangle of light by the window. His silhouette forms a strange familiarity. Stranger. You remember the guy from college, Benton Wells? No? That's the point. You were the golden boy. He was the shadow. You took the job. You took the girl. You didn't even notice. Lowell. Benton left school. He. Stranger. Dropped out. Quietly. Moved to Missouri. Lived in the background while you built your bright little lie. But shadows remember. Lowell. Especially when they're stepped on. Lowell. So this is revenge? Stranger. No. Revenge is petty. This is preservation. He turns the monitor toward Lowell. A new file opens. Lowell final/initiate. A countdown begins. Stranger. She's watching right now. So are others. Lowell stares at the screen. A live feed, his face, the room, the blinking cursor. His hands curl into fists. Lowell. You recorded us. Stranger. Every argument. Every silence. Every moment she started to drift. I didn't create the cracks, Lowell. I just showed her where to look. Lowell. Where is she? Stranger. Closer than you think. Lowell moves toward the stranger. The man doesn't flinch. Stranger, CONT'd. Careful. You break the set. The story ends too soon. You wanted answers? Here's one. She chose the broadcast. You were just the pre-show. Lowell lifts the monitor. Looks behind it. There's a hidden button, pulsing faint red. Stranger. Don't. Lowell. What happens if I do? Stranger. Everything changes. And not in the way you hope. Lowell's thumb hovers over the button. The screen flashes and switches to Brielle. She's in another room. Same cabin. She's not alone. She's crying. Not performative. Real. Torn. Brielle on screen. Lowell, if you're watching this. I didn't know. Not at first. I'm so sorry. The screen cuts to black. The stranger is gone. The attic door slams downstairs. Lowell. Quietly to himself. She's still here. And just like that, it becomes a chase. A hunt. But not for justice. For clarity. The sound of the attic door slamming echoed through the cabin like a final period at the end of a long, tangled sentence. I moved quickly but deliberately, not in a panic. I wasn't chasing anyone anymore. I knew Brielle was still inside the house. I knew the man who called himself Benton was gone, and I had no intention of going after him. He didn't matter anymore. Not really. What mattered was the woman I once called my world, now hiding in a room down the hall, surrounded by the remnants of a life we built together, a life she had quietly dismantled while I was still holding it up with both hands. I found her in what looked like a study. She was sitting on the floor, back against the wall, legs pulled to her chest, as if making herself small enough might undo everything. Her face was red, blotched, not with guilt, but with something deeper, regret, maybe even fear. But I didn't feel the same fire I expected to feel. No rage. No bitterness. Just a strange peace. I was done asking why. I had all the answers I needed. She looked up at me, her voice trembling, barely above a whisper. I didn't know what he was doing at first. I thought it was a documentary project. I didn't know you were being recorded. I didn't know how deep it went. But then I stayed. I let it happen. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Her words floated there, raw and unresolved, and the silence I gave her back said more than anything I could have spoken. I lost myself, she continued. I didn't mean to lose you with me. For the first time, I believed her. Not because I wanted to, but because I could see the pain in her eyes, the kind that doesn't fake well. She had been pulled into something strange and seductive, and by the time she realized it, she had already pushed me too far away. I'm not here to save anything, I finally said. I just needed to see the ending with my own eyes. I turned, walked out of the cabin, and didn't look back. Not out of cruelty, but because I knew that everything behind me was part of a story I didn't need to reread. I had survived the confusion. I had survived the silence, the recordings, the feeling of being erased from my own life. And now, I was walking toward something else. I drove for hours, not to escape, but to breathe, to exist in a world that didn't have hidden cameras, silent betrayals, or unfamiliar men watching from corners. I drove until the road curved into a small town I'd never heard of, where the air smelled like grass and engine oil, and the local diner served everything with a smile and too much salt. I rented a small cabin near a creek, a real one this time. No wires, no files, just peace. Weeks passed, then months. I deleted the old messages, burned the folder, blocked every unknown number that pinged my phone. The past tried to call a few times, but I didn't answer. Brielle wrote once, a letter, handwritten. No apology, just closure. She was leaving the country. I wished her well, and meant it. Somewhere in that quiet place, I found myself again, not the man she had left behind, but someone lighter, steadier. I picked up painting. I read books I'd always meant to. I stopped trying to understand everything. Some things weren't meant to be understood, only survived. And then, one morning, I met someone. Not in a dramatic way. She wasn't holding a broken umbrella in the rain. She wasn't looking for someone to heal her or be healed. She was just sitting 2 tables down with a camera and a sketch pad, lost in her own little world. Her name was Ivy. She asked about the book I was reading, and I asked what she was drawing. That was it. No sparks. No fireworks. Just something real. Something that began, not where something else ended, but in a space I had finally cleared. I told her everything in time. She didn't flinch. She listened. And then she smiled. Not a pity smile, not a curious one. Just a knowing smile. As if she, too, had once opened a door she was never meant to see behind. And that was how it all finally ended. Not with an explosion, not with revenge, not with a grand confrontation, but with a quiet step forward. Towards something new. Something honest. Something mine. And that's all I ever really wanted. Lol.